It's October 3rd, 2019. We're in Madison, Wisconsin, before the National Dairy Shrine Banquet. And it's my great pleasure to be with Dr. John Clay, a pioneer this year. John, congratulations on this honor.
Thank you very much, Dave. It is indeed an honor for me.
Well, a pioneer is seen a lot of things go on in the industry and seen things develop. But they all start somewhere. Where did you start out, John, and grow up, and how did you get involved in the dairy industry?
Well, I was reared on a dairy farm in eastern Virginia, and it was actually a dairy and tobacco farm. So my dad was dairying with his two brothers, but the dairy was his baby, and tobacco was kind of belonged to my uncles. So my dad and his children, we were always doing the milking whenever there was a choice between tobacco and milking. So I put a lot of time in on a dairy, and when it was time to choose what to do with college, I went to Virginia Tech in mechanical engineering. So I was moving away from dairy, but that lasted about 2 years, and I pretty soon ended up over in the dairy science department. And that was a very satisfying move. Kind of caught up with all my dairy courses, and then I got a master's in dairy science with Dr. Bill Vinson, and in genetics. And then I worked in the department 6 years as a researcher, and then hired to go to DRMS.
Well, you've always been involved with the dairy records industry, and DRMS is one of the huge organizations. But one of the people that hired you was also a dairy shrine pioneer this year, Dr. Ken Butcher.
Yes, I feel very honored this year to be recognized at the same time as Ken. I feel like that's not really quite appropriate because Ken was a pioneer. I felt like he was a pioneer at the time I began to work with him. And yeah, Ken was, he is one of my, I've had three important mentors in my life, and Ken is clearly an important force in my life in guiding me and really encouraging me to follow a path to provide service to dairy farmers, and DRMS was a great place to do that.
Well, you had to have an exciting team with you and Ken and other people, and DRMS has been on the leading edge of a lot of technology development in the DHIA industry.
That's right. The development team and the support team are, none of us really do it by ourselves. We rely on our collaborators and our coworkers, and so yes, certainly most recently and working in the sensor technology, capturing data from those systems and enabling producers to make decisions, and certainly with the size of dairies growing incredibly, they really can't, they don't have time to look at every cow, and so helping them filter through that information and identifying the cows that deserve attention today. That's been very satisfying, and certainly that's a place that we believe we've innovated.
Well, you've seen the development from PC Dart, where Ken had a lot to do with it, and you've taken it to a new level today. How many herds are you working with, and how many cows?
On PC Dart, they're about 1 million cows now, and about 3,500 herds. So it's the larger herds, but we have probably 1,000 herds under 100 that are able to practically and profitably deploy that software for their use.
And you really enjoy working with the dairymen themselves, don't you?
Right. It's very satisfying to, as we say, help them save time, make money, and get home to their families. And that's every time I go on farm, I learn something new. There's always a new request of something, some new feature, something that can help them out. And hearing about that and working to understand why that's important is always very satisfying.
Well, you've also been on the leading edge of taking that data and doing something with it of value to dairymen. Started out with sire conception rates, but you keep doing that, don't you?
Yeah, there's no shortage of ideas, Dave, and it's a challenge to identify an idea that's worth your time and the time of your developers, and then try to make it worthwhile. But I've probably had more failures than successes, and that's okay too. And that's one of the things that Ken taught me.
So in terms of what's happening on the data side today, what are some of those things that are really getting you excited?
Well, I think the work that, so starting with the genetics work, I think certainly in providing data to CDCB so that they can effectively do their job to compute indices and genetic metrics that are important to our dairy farmers. That's important. Any of the analytical tools, that's always the fun part. And how can you filter through just reams of data and identify trends or new things that a producer should pay attention to. So that's certainly a very gratifying area to work.
Well, you get lots of requests for data, and you have lots of collaborative efforts over the years. How do you decide, and how do you decide which areas of research that you should put that effort to and allow those farmer records to be utilized for?
That's a very good question, and you know, we take very seriously the stewardship of dairy producer records and making sure that they stay protected and are not used in a inappropriate manner. So at this point, I have probably for the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't done, except for practical research, I haven't done research, publishable research, but I've collaborated with a lot of researchers, and for us to decide to provide access to those data files, they need to send us a description of their project. They need to sign a confidentiality statement, and they need to send us a statement that they are going to publish the results, good or bad. They need to tell, you know, that information needs to be made available to dairy producers, and that open policy we've had that in place for over 30 years now, and so that there's just quite a number of researchers who come to get data, and you know, many of them are not located in universities where our customers are, so they don't know the producers at all, but they really value access to those data files so that they can apply their trade, which is to investigate problems.
Well, you have such a complete system. You've done an excellent job of record retention and gathering. How did that really all come about? Because the value of the data is how accurate and how thorough and comprehensive it is.
Well, the DHI system, which is a core part of our business, they do a task that's not very not much glory to it. They collect and clean data, and so keeping that as a focus, that we have high quality data that is stored in a manner that's easily retrievable, enables us to provide management information readily to producers and industry folks, plus researchers. So you know, the beginning of it all is to make sure that you clean it and store it in an accessible manner.
Well, you've not only done that job remarkably well, you've put yourself out in industry roles. You've worked very closely with the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding, which has seen some precursors in earlier days in the DHI records, but you really want to make value to those records and see that they get used right, don't you?
That's right, and I think the CDCB is just a a great keeper of data, and their collaboration with Agile at USDA enables the scientists at CDCB to provide just very valuable genetic and genomic tools to producers. And so I think the collaboration of the DRPCs, the DHI system, the AI system, and the PDCA in the core of CDCB is really just a very valuable collaborative effort. And so we see that, and our board of advisors sees that as an important element of our mission.
Well, you're obviously a very dairyman-focused organization, and you love working with dairymen. Speak a little bit about maybe some of the dairymen that have been really influential in helping you develop DRMS.
Well, certainly the producers who have been instrumental are typically ones who volunteer to come to our, we meet in producer education meetings, and then they volunteer to come and participate in our annual business meeting, where they take a leadership role in providing advice to us on what to do and how to do it. And it's really quite a few. Our board of 9 always has 6 producers on it, and there are quite a few producers who cycle through that advisory role and help us make those decisions. It's quite satisfying to be able to do that for them.
Well, DRMS has done a world of good for a lot of dairymen, not only in your particular membership area, but throughout the country with the research that's been done. So it's been my great pleasure to visit with you, John. Congratulations on being a National Dairy Shrine Pioneer.
Thanks, Dave.